Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we managed to bring back a fair amount of our science that we got from our Minmus flyby. For now we can hop into R&D and grab, like, precision propulsion would be probably not all that necessary, to be honest. We could take scanning tech here. This would give us that's a new model for the magnetometer, isn't it? Interesting. But yeah, this would definitely give us some additional science. So let's take that. That's basically all of our science gone. And now we're going to need to hop into the VAB. And we're going to need to, I believe our current contract that we're intending to do at this moment is that we are intending to do an orbit of Minmus, which should be nice and easy, but we need to make some alterations to this thing, for sure. So I'm going to ditch this. This is not necessary. We'll get rid of that. And the next thing that I want to do is I want to add in our new science experiments that we have. So that'll be great. And that's our communitron there. Sure. That seems fine. I also want to, up at the top here, add in something like a Propidobodyne Octo. Now, this has a built-in gyroscope, doesn't it? Yes. Okay. So we're going to put that in, and then we're going to attach this. We do not need this anymore. Now, if our Kerbals go into hibernation, we'll have the Octo assigned. Or rather, we'll have the Octo automatically on here, so that'll be absolutely wonderful. I'm going to get rid of those solar panels, and we're going to replace them with 1x6 retractable solar panels. So those are going to go right here. And when those get expanded, that's going to be something like that. So that's going to be much more effective solar panels for us. Wonderful. We do need our additional science on here, so to that end, okay, so this is a magnetometer here. We honestly don't want this in quad, but that thing's pretty big. Okay. This is a cargo part. Oh, that's a KER. Hang on. Magnetometer. So this has the kethane detector and resource scanner. This is not actually a research component. Noted. So the atmospheric fluid spectrovariometer we will be bringing along, and that will only be useful for us within the atmosphere of planets, right? So that'll be absolutely fine. I'm also going to, for now, get rid of these docking ports. We don't need them. We're not going to be landing. We'll redesign that when we do our landing mission. Now, this thing really doesn't want to go inside of the... it'll go up here, I suppose. But it really didn't want to properly go inside of the cargo bay. That's fine. We'll just move this in over... this is not a great position. Let's rotate it to be something like that. Let's get snapping off for the moment. And we can just cram this guy in here. Something like that. Are we good on this side? Yeah, we're good on this side. So that'll do. We'll be able to run that experiment through the atmosphere a couple times. It's not a big deal. So beyond that, survey units, blah, blah, blah. We're not too interested in all of this right now. So other science experiments that we got out of that, I think that's all of it, actually. So for now, that should do. Now we need to address the life support system, right? Our life support was insufficient previously. So this waste hex can is absolutely fine. We'll get rid of these supplies, and 2 waste hex cans was pretty overkill, so that seems good. We'll keep that. And that is absolutely wonderful. Next, we're going to need to have at least 1 can of each of these. I'm going to do 2. So this is being attached on with 2x symmetry here. So I want snapping on as well. And we're going to put the food hex can here. Now I'm going to do a supplies hex can, which is kind of all of the above. There we go. And then this is a waste hex can, which we should not need. This is a water hex can. And then we're going to need... Where's oxygen? Here's an oxygen hex can. There we go. And then this one here, we've kind of got an empty slot here. I'm going to have this be another supplies hex can. Oh, that's way too big. Hang on. This size of supplies hex can. Okay, so that should be more than enough life support. Eventually, we'll put this in some sort of a module, or we'll use, like, these sorts of containers. Eventually. For now, we'll attach this on the outside, and these are not particularly aligned vertically. Let's see what we can do to fix that. This is not great, is it? It's snapping it in some odd ways. I'm just undoing this. It doesn't really matter. These don't have to be perfectly aligned. They are not perfectly aligned, and that's okay. So for the time being, we've dropped a little bit of mass off of this and added a little bit of mass here. So I'm not sure if that was a net positive or a net negative on the mass, but this should be absolutely fine to take us on an orbit around Minmus and back, and in theory, our Kerbals shouldn't have any issue with that. Now, do we have a scientist here? Because we're going to want one. Did we get low science around Minmus previously? I think we only went to high science. So yeah, we're definitely going to want a scientist in this. We're going to need to grab this atmospheric analysis. We've got Jeb Bill Bob. That's actually absolutely fine. Let's grab this atmospheric analysis, but we need to unstow this. So we're going to grab this from the Launchpad here. And then we're going to have Bob EVA, and he's going to grab a surface sample from the Launchpad. I don't know how he reached it, but he did. And he's going to climb right on back in. Perfect. And we're going to collect all of that data up here. Cool. So now we can get another atmospheric analysis, and I don't think that there's a reason to do this right now, so I'm just going to throttle us up. I'm leaving this open for the moment. I'm also noticing there's some wiggling happening here. Or is that just aliasing? There's something going on up here. Oh yeah, that's moving quite a lot, actually. Interesting. That must be a weakness of this joint here, is my guess. Well, let's recover that, and we'll grab the science that we got there, and let's address that joint weakness. That should be... So we'll bring this back in, and the idea that I have here is we're just going to run a strut from the external tanks on the lander down to the main 2.5 meter width section. So that's going to be the idea there, and hopefully that will ease that one out. So back into the VAB we go. We got a little bit of science from the pad there, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, so the idea here, as I said, is that we're going to run a strut section from approximately here to approximately here or so. It's not going to be very picturesque. Maybe to like here. There we go. That should solidify this to this larger portion, in theory, and just strengthen up this joint a little bit. I have a sneaking suspicion that that's where that wiggle was coming from. Let's take a look. Put this back out on the pad. We can probably grab a little bit of additional science here. But most of our atmospheric fluid spectrovariometer data is going to be coming, or actually all of it for now, is going to be coming from Kerbin's atmosphere. So we're going to grab some of that on the way through, but there's not too much that we can do here. Okay, so let's grab the atmospheric analysis. Let's have Bob EVA and grab another surface sample. There we go, and hop back in. We'll collect that data up here. And let's see how we're doing on the wiggle. Oh, that is so much more solid. Yeah. It's not perfectly solid. I can see a teeny tiny bit of movement in the aliasing over here. I can't really see it when the part is highlighted like this, but there's a dark line right here. I can see a little bit of movement in the aliasing there, but it's barely moving. So that looks absolutely great. Let's throttle up, SAS on, and we are out of here. We're going to grab this atmospheric analysis, although we need to open the service bay to do that. And we're going to grab that data up here. Cool. I'm going to pin open the service bay here. We're going to have to open and close that a couple times. We're flying low over the shores, so there's a little bit more data we'll be able to get out of this. This is fine for the moment. So straight up we go for now, and we can open up Smart ASS here. There we go. We're going to be letting our autopilot do most of the piloting because Jeb doesn't actually have any skills. Yeah, they when they hydrated, they forgot. Or when we rehydrated them, they forgot all of their skills. So that's fine. It's absolutely okay. That's part of the reason why we've got this autopilot. So we're at a 10-kilometer apoapsis at this moment. And we're still flying low over the shores. Let's start up a little bit of a gravity turn here. We're overshooting this a little bit. This is going a little faster than I wanted to. Well, let's just make our way over to orbital prograde here. There we go. Lock to orbital prograde. That looks good. And we're at an apoapsis of 25 kilometers, looking good. We're still flying low over Kerbal's shores, so not too much science to grab right now, although we could grab another atmospheric analysis here. I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, now we're flying high over the water, so let's open this up, and we actually missed flying high over the shores, but it's okay. And these need to get staged. Farewell boosters. Okay, let's go ahead and collect all of this data. I'm going to pin open that experiment storage unit for now. Beautiful. Okay, so our current apoapsis height is about 6 kilometers. I want to get more horizontal speed than this, or rather 60 kilometers. So let's go to horizontal velocity up for now. Yeah. So our apoapsis height is currently in space. That is looking good. Everything is nominal for the moment. We need a lot of horizontal speed from here. We'll target an apoapsis height of probably 100 for this. So that is 80 at this time, and we're just building up a bunch of horizontal speed. 90 as of now. Excellent. And that is 100. I went a little higher, and that was deliberate. We're still in the atmosphere, so we're going to see some drag. Excellent. So let's go over to the apoapsis over here, add a maneuver, and just circularize this on up to somewhere around here or so. Should do the trick. It's going to be a little more DV than what we have in this, but that's absolutely fine. We'll lock to the node. We'll just slowly turn our way over there. And once we exit the atmosphere, we're not going to need to run the atmospheric fluid spectrovariometer until we're on the way back. So yeah, there's nothing to run there, so let's unpin this. We don't really need this pinned either. Cool. So we're going to start this burn in about 2 minutes. Yep, that looks We are turning very slowly, and this is to be expected. This here is quite heavy, and this is fairly heavy too, to be honest. So it's not surprising that we're having a bit of a hard time turning this, although I should remember to extend our solar panels. That usually helps. We have Kerbals here, so we could have extended the solar panels without electric charge, I think. But it usually helps to actually remember to extend those. Perfect. Okay, we're fairly close to the maneuver node. Let's go ahead and warp over. Once we get this burned out, we'll turn a lot faster. But I should note that it is true that I believe the Probodobodyne Octo has weaker reaction wheels than what we had before. Now, this is still overkill. We really don't need to be bringing a lander along on this mission, but this is mostly, right now, a life support test. I'm mostly trying to determine how much life support we need for this mission for when we actually do the landing, and it's going to be not this much, I suspect. I think this will be overkill on that. We also got a world-first milestone, the first scientific data from Minmus. Yeah, that was last episode. So that's fine. We're going to start our burn in about 20 seconds here. 10 and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Mark. I got distracted by the autosave. Ooh, that's a wiggle. That's a heck of a wiggle. This gimbal is too much. Let's gimbal limit that down to about 10. There we go. This gimbal's too much as well. Let's limit that down to about 10. Cool. So the reason that happens is the gimbal is just a little bit too powerful and has too much of an effect. So when that happens, that means that it builds up a sympathetic resonance. I think that's sympathetic is the right term for that, right? What it means is that it creates the oscillation itself, and it exacerbates it by overcorrecting for it, which is why dropping the gimbal limit fixed it. This is actually a problem that was had by a rocket that just took off like a couple of days ago, now that I think about it. I'm trying to remember the name of the company. It was a German company, I believe. I can't remember the name of the company, but they had a rocket that took off from somewhere in the Arctic Circle. And from what I could tell, it looked like they had a sympathetic resonance built up in their engine gimbaling. It was shortly after takeoff, and the rocket started like fishtailing back and forth and eventually overall lost control. It seemed like the engine gimbal was overcompensating for the issue there, and that's the same exact problem we just had. But for us, it's just a simple matter of dropping the gimbal limit. A little harder in real life, of course. Okay, so at this point, we need to set our target as being Minmus. We'll set that as our target, and the ascending and descending node is 7.4 degrees. Okay, which direction do we need to go? This is always a gamble. Hey, I guessed right. Excellent. So 3 degrees, 2 degrees, 1 degree, a little bit more on this inclination. Little more? Or timing? Timing, actually. Okay, so we got to push forward that timing ever so slightly to get to 0.0, but that looks good. Now that we've ditched the stage back here, you can see we are definitely turning faster. It's not fast, it's faster. It'll be a lot faster once we get rid of this. How much weight is in this mass? We could figure it out. We definitely could figure it out. We could look at the... Let's see, vessel mass in here is currently 10,588 kilograms, and if we were to jettison this, we could figure it out, but that would require reverting back to a save, and that sounds like work. Regardless, this is heavy. There's a lot of fuel in that, and as we burn the fuel, this turn rate will get better. The real question is, will the turn rate be good enough on the landing stage? Now, the engine that we have here, the Terrier engine, does have gimbal on it, so it should probably be sufficient for landing. That's the theory, anyway. Let's physics work the last little bit of this turn here. We're working on getting in position. You can see we definitely have a bit of a joint weakness over here, so a strut from here to here would not necessarily go amiss. That is definitely noted for the next segment of this mission. Really likes to wiggle, no doubt about that. But for now, this will do. We've got about a minute until this inclination change, now about 10 seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Excellent. So let's get our inclination changed here. We're going to burn off a decent chunk of this fuel, and you can see here, look at how quickly that mass is dropping. Beautiful. Is this stage mass and total mass? That may well be the case, actually. In which case, we can see that this stage mass is like 9 tons. I think that's probably what we've... Okay, so we've got about 2 seconds of burn time left, and I'm just going to burn this a little bit more cautiously. We need to be not tremendously accurate with it, but accurate enough, right? And that's definitely accurate enough. So we'll put this into kill rot, and let's see here, 0.0 looks fantastic. So Minmus is out over here, so our burn time is going to be probably sometime around here, would be my guess. That's maybe a little too long. That's pretty good, actually. So this gives us an encounter right there. What's that periapsis looking like? Oh, we can definitely dial that in. So we want to get down to a low orbit, and let's see what this would look like if we went... yes. So I'm just scrolling down on the mouse wheel here to fine-tune this, and let's just continually bring that in a little bit. I want to target somewhere around 30 kilometers or so. We're not going for a landing, but we want to definitely be in a low orbit. Maybe even a little lower than that. This is Minmus. Let's go for like 20 kilometers. This will probably require a corrective burn, but that's okay. And you can see here, we're going to be burning this entire stage to get there, plus a little bit from our landing stage. That's actually not a concern. I would normally be concerned about that for future revisions of this design, and maybe I'm a little concerned about it for future revisions. But overall, we'll have more than enough DV in the lander to do anything we need to do at Minmus, right? I'm really not concerned with Minmus DV. Minmus has such low gravity that it doesn't really matter all that much. So we're definitely building up a little bit of an oscillation here. I can see that the joint that is causing that issue is right here. It is, in fact, this decoupler, or this heat shield, or the service bay. I think it's like the connection between the service bay and the heat shield, it looks like. So that definitely needs to be anchored down. Struts from here to here would do the trick. So that's something for next flight here. For now, let's warp around. We're in position for this burn. And let's head over to Minmus. But yeah, I would want this stage to transfer us all the way to our destination location and do orbital maneuvers in standard design. So this running out of fuel here, really what that means is that first stage was a little underpowered because we had to burn a decent amount of fuel in orbital maneuvers here to like even achieve orbit at all. We had to burn a fair amount of fuel in this stage, and the inclination change, I would usually argue, probably is fine to be this stage, but I mean, honestly, what you want to do is you want to launch into the correct inclination in the first place, right? And not have to do the inclination change, but it's fine. It's absolutely fine. 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, we'll physics warp through this burn a little bit. It's going to be a bit of a lengthy burn. Excellent. And yeah, you can see weight is dropping considerably. We've dropped over half of the weight of this stage at this point. And we're going to be running out of fuel here shortly. I'm coming out of physics warp for the time being. We've only got about 60 meters per second left. Okay. And that probably means that the struts that we're connecting from here to here, these guys here, probably weren't necessary. It's probably going to be solved by doing a connection here to here. Most likely, that would solve the oscillation. But it doesn't really matter that much. It's a manageable... So 50 meters per second for now. And 40... 30. Our thrust to weight here is not phenomenal, but that's to be expected. 20. 10. And the last little bit here. We want this to be a pretty precise burn, actually. We're probably going to need a correction on this, and I'm just looking at our turn rate here. It's not the best in the world. So we might want to consider investing in another gyroscope beyond just the one in the Octo. Okay, 0.0. We're going to call that good for now. Let's see what our periapsis ended up being. So the answer is, well, let's just go to Minmus. 10 kilometers. That's low. Okay, I mean, over Minmus, 10 kilometers is probably fine. I'm going to take us over to retrograde here. And I'm going to turn, actually not gimbal limit, I'm going to turn our thrust down to 0.5%. Very, very low thrust. Let's physics warp as we turn. This is going to affect our orbit, but don't worry about it. It'll come back. Yep, I definitely think our turn rate's a bit of an issue. It won't be a problem with the gimbaling, but it's definitely a concern. And I'm keeping an eye on our overall life support. This should be wildly overkill on the life support, is the idea. Okay, now it's 32 kilometers. I don't know what the real periapsis is. Cool. So we're just going to head on up to the warp, or to the, to here. Once we get into the actual sphere of influence, we should get good information on that. Okay, so we're watching this here. We're definitely seeing our waste fill up. Can we jettison waste? Like, it feels like we should be able to do that. if we go into our waste hex can or recycle it in some way. So yeah, we can transfer it. I wonder if we can vent it once we put vents on. That'll be interesting. Well, for now, what we want to do is we want to get into the sphere of influence of Minmus, right? So let's just bring this right on in, and let's see what our Minmus periapsis ends up actually being once we're in the SOI. 34 kilometers. I can live with that. So we'll add a maneuver here. This is going to be a retrograde maneuver. And as you can see, Minmus is very, very low on what it requires. So let's just bring this in and circularize. Very cheap maneuvers here. So a circularization would be somewhere like here. 34 kilometers should definitely be within low Minmus orbit, which will get us good science. We can grab our mystery goo observation and material study here, which we're definitely going to do. And we're going to collect that up over here. And then Bob is going to need to EVA and go grab some of that data. I don't love... Wait, these aren't retractable, are they? These aren't the retractable photovoltaic panels. Okay, well, that's going to be a problem on re-entry, but they'll burn up. It's okay. I'm not too worried about that. So Bob is going to EVA here, and I was going to retract this because I'm concerned about Bob bonking his head on them. But for now, let's head over this direction. Grab this service bay open, and we'll restore the Mystery Goo containment unit and restore the Science Junior. This did not actually restore. There we go. So we'll observe and conduct the material study here. We're going to get very, very little science out of this, and that is absolutely understood. So now we want to collect this data and restore, and collect the data and restore. So the data is now being held by Bob. We'll close that and head right on back into the rocket. Or rather, I should say into the capsule. So that's absolutely fine. We'll lock to the node here, and this data is going to be held here and here at this point. So now we need to go to In Space Low. Hello, Kerbal. Hello, Moon. And we need to hop into orbit. But it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to grab a bunch of science from Minmus Low Orbit and make our way on back once we've satisfied our contract on... let's see here. This is going to be to orbit Minmus and go on an orbital spacewalk, which is going to happen, so that's absolutely fine. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.